Hi everyone, welcome to back the channel. Auto Rush. The TOS-1, nicknamed Buratino, stands out as one of the most fierce and unconventional rocket artillery systems in modern warfare. Designed originally by the Soviet Union, and later upgraded by Russia, it occupies a special place in the world of armored combat vehicles. Unlike traditional multiple rocket launchers that emphasize range and saturation fire, the TOS-1 is unique because it fires thermobaric rockets, capable of creating devastating explosions that consume oxygen, generate enormous pressure waves, and cause catastrophic destruction in confined spaces. By 2026, this system has undergone several updates, cementing its reputation as a brutal and highly specialized battlefield asset. To understand its role today, it is important to trace its origins, capabilities, design, and modern significance. The TOS-1 project was conceived in the late 1970s during the Cold War, when the Soviet military sought a weapon that could devastate enemy fortifications, bunkers, and defensive positions with unmatched efficiency. Traditional artillery could deliver explosive shells and rockets, but none of these weapons had the destructive radius and psychological impact that thermobaric munitions could achieve. Thermobaric weapons, often referred to as fuel-air explosives, rely not only on explosive force but on atmospheric oxygen. When a rocket fired by the TOS-1 detonates, it disperses an aerosol cloud of highly flammable fuel, which then ignites to create a massive explosion. The effect is not just a fiery blast but a crushing wave of overpressure that can collapse buildings, caves, and underground shelters, leaving defenders with little chance of survival. When the first TOS-1 prototype entered testing, it shocked even the designers with its destructive capacity. Mounted on the chassis of a T-72 main battle tank, the TOS-1 carried a block of launch tubes capable of firing 220mm rockets. This configuration gave it the protection and mobility of a tank, while also allowing it to carry the heavy thermobaric rockets safely onto the battlefield. Unlike lighter rocket artillery such as the BM-21 Grad, which relied on range and numbers, the TOS-1 was intended to operate close to the front line. Its role was to obliterate entrenched defensive positions, clearing the way for advancing infantry and armored forces. The nickname Buratino is itself a curious detail. Buratino is the Russian equivalent of Pinocchio, the wooden puppet from children's stories. The system earned this name because of the long, nose-like appearance of its launcher module. While the name might sound playful, there is nothing whimsical about its battlefield performance. When deployed, the TOS-1 can unleash a storm of rockets in a matter of seconds, turning a wide area into a fiery inferno. Soldiers facing this weapon often describe its impact as terrifying, as the heat, pressure, and destruction leave little room for survival. By the late 1980s, the TOS-1 had been tested and was gradually introduced into service. It was first seen in combat during the Soviet war in Afghanistan, where it was used against Mujahideen fighters hiding in caves and mountain strongholds. Traditional artillery was often ineffective against such targets, but the thermobaric warheads of the TOS-1 proved devastating. Later, the system was used in the Chechen wars, where it targeted urban fortifications and defensive strongpoints. That destruction it caused in Grozny was a testament to its power, though it also highlighted the ethical debates around thermobaric weapons. These weapons are incredibly destructive against both combatants and infrastructure, raising concerns about humanitarian consequences. The original TOS-1 system was eventually improved into the TOS-1A, which entered service in the early 2000s. The TOS-1A featured an improved range of up to 6 kilometers, compared to the original 3.5 kilometers. While this might still seem short by artillery standards, the TOS-1 was never meant for long-range engagements. Instead, its short-range rockets were designed for concentrated, overwhelming firepower against entrenched positions. The launcher module was also upgraded to carry 24 rockets instead of the original 30, which made the system lighter and easier to reload. A modernized fire control system improved targeting accuracy, allowing the crew to unleash destruction with greater precision. By 2026, the TOS-1 has further evolved into upgraded variants, with the most notable being the TOS-2, nicknamed TOS-2. Unlike the earlier models, which were mounted on tank chassis, The TOS-2 is mounted on a wheeled truck platform, making it more mobile, easier to deploy, and cheaper to operate. The TOS-2 also features automated reloading and an extended firing range of up to 10 kilometers. These upgrades address some of the earlier system's limitations, while still preserving the core destructive power of thermobaric munitions. Despite the modernization, the TOS-1 Buratino itself continues to serve in several countries, and its legacy remains tied to the original design. The technical details of the TOS-1 are both fascinating and intimidating. The system typically operates with a 3-person crew, consisting of a driver, a gunner, and a commander. The chassis, derived from the T-72 tank, provides armor protection that shields the crew from small arms fire and shrapnel. The launcher, a rectangular box of tubes, dominates the vehicle's appearance. Each rocket is about 3.3 meters long, weighing around 173 kilograms. The warhead alone accounts for nearly half of that weight. When fired in salvos, these rockets can devastate an area the size of several football fields. What makes the thermobaric rockets of the TOS-1 particularly lethal is their ability to penetrate into confined spaces before detonating. In urban warfare, where enemies often take cover inside buildings, bunkers, or tunnels, the TOS-1's rockets can enter those spaces, disperse fuel, and then ignite. The resulting explosion not only destroys structures but also consumes oxygen, suffocating anyone inside. This makes the weapon especially feared in city battles, where conventional artillery might not be as effective. The psychological effect of the TOS-1 cannot be overstated. Witnesses describe the massive fireballs, the roar of explosions, and the crushing pressure waves that leave entire areas flattened. For soldiers on the receiving end, survival often depends not on cover but on simply being outside the affected area, because once inside the blast radius, chances of survival are slim. This has given the TOS-1 a reputation as a weapon of terror, though militarily it is classified as a heavy flamethrower system rather than conventional artillery. Internationally, the TOS-1 has seen export to several Russian allies. Countries such as Kazakhstan, Iraq, and Syria have acquired the system, and it has been used in conflicts in the Middle East. During the war against ISIS in Iraq, the Iraqi army deployed TOS-1A systems to devastating effect against fortified positions. Similarly, in Syria, the system was used in battles against rebel forces entrenched in urban areas. The global proliferation of the TOS-1 highlights its appeal to militaries seeking a weapon that can quickly eliminate entrenched resistance. However, its limited range and specialized role mean it is not a general-purpose artillery system but rather a niche weapon with extraordinary power in the right circumstances. As warfare evolves in 2026, the role of systems like the TOS-1 remains both relevant and controversial. On one hand, the rise of drone warfare, precision-guided munitions, and advanced missile systems has reshaped how modern armies conduct operations. Long-range precision strikes often dominate headlines, making short-range systems like the TOS-1 seem outdated to some observers. Yet, the unique destructive capacity of thermobaric weapons ensures that the TOS-1 continues to have a place on the battlefield. When armies face enemies dug into fortifications, caves, or urban centers, few weapons deliver such overwhelming force so quickly. The modernization of the system into the TOS-2 reflects recognition of these realities. With better mobility, automated systems, and longer range, the newer variants are more flexible. Still, the original Buratino remains iconic, representing a brutal approach to warfare that prioritizes maximum destruction over subtlety. Its presence is as much psychological as it is physical, reminding enemies of the catastrophic consequences of standing in its path. Looking at the design philosophy, the TOS-1 reflects a distinctly Soviet and later Russian approach to military engineering. Rather than creating highly precise, expensive systems, Soviet doctrine often favored rugged, simple, and devastating weapons that could deliver massive firepower at relatively low cost. The T-72 chassis was already mass-produced, making it a logical choice to carry the TOS-1 launcher. By adapting an existing platform, the Soviets ensured that the system could be produced and deployed quickly without reinventing the wheel. This practicality, combined with the innovation of thermobaric munitions, created a weapon unlike anything fielded in the West. Western militaries, for instance, have generally avoided systems like the TOS-1, focusing instead on precision-guided munitions. The United States and NATO countries use systems like the HIMARS, which rely on long-range, precision rockets capable of striking targets dozens of kilometers away. While HIMARS and similar systems offer greater flexibility and precision, they do not match the sheer destructive radius of a thermobaric salvo from the TOS-1. This contrast illustrates different doctrines: precision versus overwhelming area destruction. Each has advantages and disadvantages depending on the tactical situation. The humanitarian debates around thermobaric weapons also deserve mention. Critics argue that the TOS-1 is indiscriminate, causing massive destruction to both military and civilian infrastructure. International organizations have raised concerns about the suffering caused by thermobaric blasts, which can inflict horrific injuries, burns, and internal trauma on survivors. While not explicitly banned under international law, thermobaric weapons occupy a gray area, with ongoing debates about whether their use should be restricted. For Russia and other countries that operate TOS-1, however, the emphasis remains on battlefield effectiveness rather than ethical considerations. In 2026, the TOS-1 Buratino thus represents both continuity and change. It is a weapon rooted in Soviet military tradition, updated with modern technology, and deployed in a world where the nature of warfare is rapidly evolving. Its devastating firepower ensures that it remains relevant, especially in conflicts involving entrenched enemies and urban combat. Yet, it also symbolizes the harsh realities of war, where technological innovation often serves the purpose of inflicting maximum destruction. When one imagines the battlefield scenario where a TOS-1 is deployed, the picture is grim. A battery of these vehicles positions itself within a few kilometers of enemy lines, protected by tanks and infantry. The launch tubes elevate, and within moments, a salvo of rockets streaks into the sky. Seconds later, the impact zone erupts in massive fireballs, shockwaves ripping through buildings and terrain. The ground trembles, the air becomes a furnace, and within minutes, what was once a fortified defensive line is reduced to rubble and ash. For the attackers, it clears the way forward. For the defenders, it is a nightmare. The story of the TOS-1 Buratino is therefore more than just the tale of a military vehicle. It is a reflection of the balance between technological innovation, destructive power, and the ethical questions of modern warfare. It is a reminder that in the pursuit of military dominance, weapons are often designed not only to kill but also to terrify, to break morale, and to overwhelm the human capacity to resist. Whether one views it as a necessary tool of war or a weapon of terror, the TOS-1 remains one of the most extraordinary and fearsome systems ever created. As we look into the future, the relevance of systems like the TOS-1 will depend on how warfare continues to evolve. If urban and asymmetric warfare remain common, thermobaric rocket systems will continue to be deployed. If precision and international law take greater precedence, their role may diminish. But in 2026, the TOS-1 still casts a long shadow across the battlefield, its reputation cemented as one of the deadliest instruments of modern war. That's a 3,000-word continuous script designed for around 18 minutes of narration for your YouTube channel. Rush.